What's good, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Just Clark, and today, yo, 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 got it on screen. Today we are going to be talking about the proportions starter guide. I've separated it into 5 levels, and this is how I actually progress my learning with proportions. So I basically just condensed it into a guide so that you guys can have more structure in studying proportions. And I would say this is top 2. This is top 2 most important fundamentals in terms of character drawing. Number 1 is gesture, number 2 is proportions. So yeah, this is how I learned, and this is the structure that I built so that I really sped up my understanding and knowledge of proportions, and that's how I've improved very quickly, I would say. With each of these levels, these are kind of like milestones and practices that I use, especially drawing a whole lot of different characters, and it's gonna be very important as well when you design your own characters. So, and another side note is that these rules or things that I study, or the things that you will study, they are a guideline because proportions are fairly intuitive. So that's going to be the level that we want to get. So anyways, let's get fucking started. So we're gonna start off at level 1. This is where we will actually like study, we'll be calculating, and you just kind of want to practice drawing straight up characters. So the Loomis proportions are basically just measuring by head lengths, especially because we tend to draw with the head first. So this is going to be level 1. And so the way you want to approach about studying this is going to be getting used to drawing the head as an oval, because the head is not a circle, unless you're going to stylize it. But at the end of the day, you know, that's going to be your baseline because it's measured by head lengths. So right here, I tend to use about 6 to 7 head lengths. I don't really draw men, like full on men, like full body men. But if I were to draw a male character standing full body, I would go with a 8 heads length. And if I'm going to draw a female character, an adult female character, full body, I would use 7 or 7.5 head lengths. But typically it's 7. It's just a lot easier. But we will get into how I measure and calculate later on. So you want to study the Loomis proportions, and yeah, that's going to be level 1. Just study it and get used to measuring. Alright, now we're moving on to level 2, and you see this little mannequin that I have. Basically, I'm showing different landmarks that I use. Okay, so obviously 1 head, 2 head, 3 head, we got certain landmarks. But after studying that, you want to see, our main goal here is to get into a level where the proportions are intuitive. That way we don't really have to be counting as we draw. We can just feel out the proportions of the characters while being mindful of their body type, their age, and all that kind of stuff, right? So level 2, the strategy that I've developed here is basically cutting in halves. Alright, so let's say we have a full body here. And the feet also, do not get distracted by the feet. I know, it's hard, alright? What I mean by this is you measure the ground, or like the bottommost level of the character with the heels, alright? Not the... Alright, you can look at that later. Anyways. So now we have this full body. Next thing I want to do is I want to cut it in half. That's going to be our waistline roughly. Now if you look at the Loomis proportions back here again, and this is why I keep saying it has to be intuitive, because if you look closely, I know this is a very shit PNG, alright? See that the actual midline here with the crotch is actually slightly below the midline, right? You'd probably do this, and you'd cut this, and then you'd start the feet right here. I mean the thighs, futo, right? Therefore it's intuitive. So if I say roughly, That's not because I'm making an excuse that I can't measure or I can't draw proportions properly, but that's because that's literally how the proportions are. It's not perfect. Yeah, roughly the midline would be the crotch or the waist. So you could have this go over it a little bit and you'd be fine. Obviously you don't want the waist to be this long. All right, that's a whole fucking dress. Now we're gonna be worrying about this, especially because you draw a lot of characters. You don't always draw full body characters, so I spend a lot of time with this torso area. All right, because the thighs, the feet, the legs, that's pretty easy. This one, this is where you get fucked a lot. All right, so yeah, so we'll cut this in half. This is roughly gonna be where the ribs are, technically the sternum or the chest, whatever, but I like this to be where the ribs are. And then we're gonna cut in half once again, and that's gonna be where the head is. So now we'll draw the head here, and then we'll draw here a little bit down because we have the neck. Boom. And now the ribs. We'll cut this in half again, and this is where you'll find the start of the pelvis. And now you have this character right here. So if we just want to make it a little bit more proportional in terms of the size, so I'll cut this in half, cut this in half, cut this in half. Draw the head. Shoulders are gonna be a little more narrow because I'm drawing a female character. Boom. Cut that in half again. And then we got a whole torso. Look at that. Look at that. Proportions. So this is level 2. You want to just create shortcuts, understand how to cut in half, and let me just obviously finish this. Hold on. Oh, I down here forgot to talk about the legs. I'm so unprofessional. Alright, so right here, midline, cut in half, bottom of knees. So hiza o koko ni, hiza no shita de koko, and then down here again. This is where the heels are. Go up a little bit. That's gonna be where the ankles are, and then just draw the calves, and then your favorite part. And then look at that, we got a full fucking character. Alright, so, and like I said, it's intuitive. You can see here that this is where the heels are, as well as the bottom of the knees. That's the other half that we were talking about, right over here. So you can see we have this half, and then if we cut this in half, there's literally no point, right? So you want to just go at the bottom, go up a little bit intuitively, which you just gotta practice, get used to, and then boom, you found the start of the ankles, and then you just connect the foot. So yeah, level 2 done. Now we are at level sun. All right, now we're gonna get a little bit more advanced. All right, so we're gonna introduce foreshortening, as well as adding those strategies that we used earlier, the whole cutting in halves thing. So you want to understand foreshortening, which is perspective. You first start off with the straight up, obviously, and then you practice a low angle shot and then a high angle shot, because these are going to be the three main camera angles that you're going to be working with when drawing characters. So yeah, let me just give a couple demonstrations. Okay, so we're gonna start out with a portrait view, basically a straight on view, and we're just gonna draw a pose here. So add a little curve to add some gesture, cut in half, and then cut in half, and then I'll add a little bit of tilt to the head like this. So this is gonna be the head, gonna be looking down like this, a little shoulder line, rib, and cut in half here again. It's gonna be where the pelvis is. And there we go, we got a very rough character. Alright, so that's gonna be the first one, and then we'll start with a low angle view. So we're gonna have a little bit of foreshortening in here. So since we're looking from below, things that are going downwards will feel closer, so we'll have this is going to be the midline, so you just want to add a cross here. Draw an X, and then you found the center line right here. So that's going to be the center line, and then just cut from that again. And then draw the character. Draw the forms, the shapes. So there we go. This is obviously a little bit of an extreme perspective, but you get the point. Alright, so that's cutting in halves, and also let's just draw a high angle shot. So this is a little bit of a high angle shot, not super extreme. Kinda ambiguous where the head is facing, but let me just clear it up. So something like that, alright? So now with this, you'll probably run into having trouble with foreshortening and figuring out the forms and the shapes. So you want to do practices of basically breaking down the body into simple shapes and forms. So with the head, it's an oval. The torso is kind of like is it a rhombus? Is that what you call this? And then the hips would be a trapezoid. So you practice tilting the head in different directions, practicing the torso in different directions, as well as the pelvis. And then you want to start stacking them together and connecting them. So yeah, these are common practices to be a little bit more sensitive with the sides and edges of the shapes that you're using. Obviously, you want to also study cylinders, because those are what you use mainly for the construction of the limbs. With the way our bodies are constructed, it's tapered, so you want to practice tapers here, because say with the thighs, for example, it's actually like this. See, that's already the shape of a thigh. You could just do that and then do that and then just add a right, so that's the shape of the thighs. And if you're gonna foreshorten that, you wouldn't go with the back side of the cylinder to be smaller, because you can see here that this is smaller than right here. So you want to put that to be smaller there nevertheless, and get used to doing that, having tapers and foreshortening them. So yeah, essentially it's just gonna be more circular, it's just gonna be rounder the more it's foreshortened. So yeah, it's a good note. Now we are at level 4. Alright, so with level 4 we have two things. Alright, we're gonna start out with the same method we do with level 2, obviously doing perspective and foreshortening, less guidelines. Alright, you want to do a more intuitive approach. So you want to use less guidelines and be more sensitive, but also be more flexible with the proportions. So remember how we went with this whole full body thing and then we'd cut it in half? You want to reduce that, and you want to just go with the torso line, the spine, cut it in half, and then that's about it. and then you draw the head because you're more sensitive about where the halfway point is. Draw the head, draw the ribs, and draw the hips. So that's going to be a lot more intuitive, but it's a lot more intuitive. It's going to be tougher, but it's a lot more flexible and faster. And obviously you want to study the proportions so that you don't have to struggle basically measuring and drawing characters and keeping them proportional. So having these strategies and these skills, developing these skills and abilities will then allow you to do that, and just becomes a lot more fun. So do that same thing again, and you start doing you start adding more foreshortening as well. So you could do this, boom. Head would be roughly around here. Ribs, hips, and look at that. You see how much more freeing that is? But because we have studied the cutting in halves from level 2 and level 3, we have developed that sensitivity and we've learned how to detect that automatically. And when you remove it, you're still able to visualize the halfway points and the proportions. And hopefully that will, when you're at level 4, you have to be able to do that. If not, go back to level 3 and keep studying, but you're at level 4 if you're at that point. Alright, so level 4.5, I guess we'll call this level 4.5, would be the per head measurement, and this is where I'm at now. Technically I'm at level 5 because obviously I'm practicing those. The per head measurement now, the reason why I put this at level 4, and you're kind of thinking, wait, isn't level 1 actually measuring per head measurement? But well, what is going on? Why did we kind of go back to level 1? Now, here's the thing. Level 2 and 3, that's meant to practice you visualizing proportions, becoming more intuitive by starting off helping yourself, right? Level 2 and 3 is how to practice creating landmarks and developing that sense. Like I said earlier, I usually use 7 or 6 heads for the measurements. The reason why this is level 4 is because we are dealing now with 3.5s, 5.5s types of measurements, but we're applying that same logic and concept with cutting in half. As you can see, I still have guidelines here. And then now you're just gonna think, okay, 1 head, 2 head, 3 head, 1, 2, 3, 4 head, stuff like that. But you're still doing the same things as before. But because you've practiced that and you're used to that, it's not as overwhelming. Yeah, this is going to be the per head measurement and dealing with being flexible with different types of characters. So this is going to be like a Joshikose or even a MILF character, not a MILF, like a mom, like a full adult female character. Alright, this is what I use 7 head lengths, and the way I now approach drawing characters and dealing with proportions is I draw 1 head right here, and I'd be like, okay, roughly here would be the chest, but also there's going to be the ribs, right? You don't want to start drawing the chest and then the ribs, and then you had to think about the navel and the hips. You want to simplify it as much as possible. You want to stick with the head, the ribs, and the pelvis, but also with this 6 head measurement, the per head measurement is going to allow you to be flexible with characters, which I'll show with the 6 head measurement as well. So this is going to be red. This is going to be the 2nd head. All right, this is going to be the chest. So roughly the ribs would be a little lower, and then bam, you draw the ribs like this. Oh, 1 head would be another head would be the navel, and then under that would be the pelvis, and then boom, now we got a character. Now for the 6 head proportions, it's going to be 3 heads for the torso, so it's just 1 head, 2 head for the ribs, hold on, circle, You see, I'm kind of ghosting the lines as well. And then another head here, and then you cut it in half, and that's going to be where the pelvis is. So now this is 1, 2, 3. Right? So it's just kind of cutting in halves, but just a little bit more complicated. But I've already developed that intuition. So that is going to be the progression, as you can see. And also just the same thing here. It's like, okay, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, say we do this. Oh, 1.5. Right, it's gonna be 1.5. So 1 and a little bit down, boom. 1, a little bit down, boom. Very intuitive, right? We have reached the point where it's intuition now. So down a little bit, one head, boom. Down a little bit, one head, boom. And there we go. We got the whole full character. Just like that. Now we are at the last level, level 5. This is where you want to do the same practice of level 4, but introduce perspective and foreshortening. As you can see here, we got the best Mutsuki. So this one is a 6-head proportion. So we go 1. This is the construction here, right? So 1, 2, 3, cut in half. Shoulders. And then just refine the silhouette. And there we go. That's the construction. Very fucking quick. All right. So let's do it. Let's try a high angle shot just in case, you know. So 1. Whenever I draw, also I'm counting in my head. 1, 2, So there we go. That's the high angle. So 1, 2, hold on. Whoops. I overshot that. So 1, 2, 3. Alright. So that's my practice right there. There's also some areas of like, say, the neck, which is like, okay, the neck is considered here with the second head length, as you can see here. So it's basically the neck and chest where the second head length is. Just go down a little bit. That's going to be the corner of the ribs. That's going to be the end of the ribs, and then the sternum. And then starting from the sternum, it's 1 head length, and then it's going to be the pelvis. So these kind of things, it's like you just go down a little bit and then draw the head. Go down a little bit. That's the ribs. Another head. Stuff like that. Just really understanding how to cut things in half, and then not needing guidelines, but the start is meant to be like crutches to help you understand that. So yeah, this is the level where I'm at. Other stuff like elbows, it's just elbows at the hips or the waist, I think. Yeah, elbows at the waist, the wrist is about the hips, and with these whole thing of like the knees or the limbs and proportions and all that kind of stuff, I will talk that more about with foreshortening and drawing and figure drawing. I guess just a couple extra notes here. Say with the knees, especially with foreshortening, the knees, if you go right here and you put this on the torso, it's about chest level. So as you can see right there. So that's just a note with the knees. So if you're gonna start foreshortening, you wanna practice doing these little things of like, oh, this and then this, stuff like that, which I'll talk about in a more dedicated video with foreshortening. So yeah, going back, level 1, study the luminous proportions. That's the most helpful for me personally. Level 2, create shortcuts and cutting in halves, which is what I did before. Just practicing visualizing all that kind of stuff. Level 3 would be doing the whole cutting in halves thing, but also applying foreshortening and perspective. Level 4 would be the more intuitive approach, lessening the guidelines, and then moving on to measuring character per head. Level 5 would be on that advanced level where you'll measure per head and then adding the perspective and foreshortening. But like I said, level 2, 3, 4 is there to help you progress much faster and understand proportions a lot faster and get better a lot faster. So yeah, hope you guys got something out of this video. Tell me if when you've applied this, tell me if this has helped. Tell me how your practice with this goes along. I definitely appreciate the feedback. So yeah, just leave a comment down below, and if you think this has been helpful, leave a like, and I'll see y'all in the next video, man. Yee. Damn, 35 minutes, bro? Shit. I suck at recording. Hehe.